What do you think of the Aquascape, Tommy? Do you like it? Hi everyone, George here and welcome to a new video. Very excited to bring you this one. It's going to be a full step-by-step on how we aquascape this beautiful Aquascaper 900 here at my new friend Mark's place. Absolutely stunning home. Mark's seen my videos and he reached out and he basically wants a nice aquascape. So I'm going to take you through the process and it's going to be a fairly classic kind of George Farmer style. That sounds a bit weird saying George Farmer in the third person. Fairly classic style that you're familiar with. Beautiful materials, beautiful plants. Shout out to Aquarium Gardens for helping me out there. And yeah, can't wait to share the process and the journey with you guys. So I really hope you enjoy it. Let's go. Okay, so let's talk about the system. Aquascaper 900 from Evolution Aqua, super low iron glass, minimum invisible silicon almost. This is on top of the bronze gloss cabinet, which actually matches Mark's interior beautifully. Evolution Aqua have actually recently evolved their cabinets. They've got like an aluminium frame to give it a bit more rigidity and strength, so that's worth talking about. Lighting, we've got the good old faithful Twin Star 900. This is the S, absolutely perfect for this size and type of aquarium. Plenty of light to grow any plant that we want to. Filtration wise, we've got the OASE Biomaster 600 Thermo, which incorporates the built-in heater and quick release, super easy to maintain pre-filter. And then we're not using the supplied plastic pipework. We've actually got the Evolution Aqua Glass Pipework Set here. We've got the inlet here, which has a floating skimming portion to keep the surface scum off the surface. And then we have the traditional kind of glass lily pipe outlet. And then you might just be able to see the CO2 drop checker here as well. I've installed all of the equipment before we scape. I like to get that out of the way. It's kind of, once you've scaped, you want to just relax and enjoy it. You don't want to be setting up the equipment in my experience. So taken Mark through the filter, the CO2 system. We're running pressurized CO2 with a CO2 art regulator, solenoid and inline diffuser as well. So all of that equipment has been taken out of the Aquascape and hidden in the cabinet. So the whole idea, the whole kind of concept is to minimize the distraction and the impact of ugly equipment in the aquarium. That's why we've got the glass pipes, got the overhead lighting, suspended lighting, rimless aquarium, no braces, no rims. So if we want to, we can have plants and wood coming out the top. You can see into the Aquascape, which provides a new dimension of enjoying your work and your art. It is a premium system. You will pay more for this kind of system than you would maybe an off-the-shelf kit from your local pet store. But in my opinion, you know, it's all about trying to enjoy the hobby, enjoy the art form and present it in the best way that you can afford. And, you know, this is a beautiful system and one that I recommend to most of my clients. Okay, so at Mark's request, we've switched the filter inlet and outlet and the CO2 drop checker to the other side of the aquarium. Now, this is a really good point, a learning point for everyone. Bear in mind where you're going to be viewing that Aquascape from, you know, the likelihood of maybe someone knocking into it, the pipes if they're walking past. Quick job, just swapped everything over to the other side and it means there's less intrusion when Mark's viewing the Aquascape. Okay, first thing we're going to do is install the substrate system. In this case, we're using Tropica Aquarium soil. Regular viewers to the channel will know all about this product. Been using it for years now in dozens of aquascapes, proven performer. Helps to feed the plant roots, actually helps to soften the water a little bit. Doesn't need pre-rinsing, has a really nice kind of light grain in terms of its density, so it allows for easy root penetration. And just a really easy to use product. Put it straight in the aquarium, no rinsing required, and away you go. So we've got 9 litre bags, 3 of those, so we're going to be adding 27 litres of the soil altogether. Okay, we've got the soil in there, sloped it slightly to the rear, so we have a depth of around probably 8 centimetres or so at the back. That's about 3 inches. and probably about 4 or 5 centimetres at the front, about 2 inches or so. Reason for that is it can create an artificial kind of extra sense of depth when you're looking at it from front on. Also, we're going to be planting some quite big root feeding plants in the background. We'll talk about those later, but they're going to benefit from that extra depth of substrate. So next step is the hardscaping process. So we've got some beautiful wood here, a couple of kind of bit chunky, I would call it, chunky pieces of bogwood. Mark and I have hopefully assured ourselves that it's not going to float, so fingers crossed. Bogwood tends to sink quite quickly as well. It will probably leach some tannins into the water, so Mark might find that the water takes on a slightly kind of tea brown stain. A couple of things you can do to mitigate that. You can either do big frequent water changes, which I would encourage anyway, especially in the first kind of month or so of the aquascape's life. But you could also use some chemical filtration. So for instance, in the OASE filter, we could put some of the black carbon pre-filter sponges, that would help. And use products as well like Chem Purigen, which you can add to the external canister filter in one of the compartments. And that's a very good product at removing tannins as well. Did send Mark a few options of hardscape. I'll overlay them right now. Whilst I was at Aquarium Gardens in the dry scaping area, I had a bit of a brief about what Mark wanted. He sent me some aquascapes that he liked the look of. And then with that in mind, I created a few different hardscape layouts. And then Mark chose his favourite, and that's what we're replicating right now. So 2 big chunks of bogwood, which I'm just going to position kind of centrally, almost like an island composition. Okay, that's the hardscape done. Quite a simple process. You only had the 2 pieces of bogwood, which I wanted to kind of create almost an island composition, and then place the Frodo Stone strategically around that using the strata, which are the natural lines that you can see on the stone, all kind of converging to the centre. And this just helps to create this kind of natural appearance. Mark actually came up with a genius idea of deliberately having a gap between the 2 kind of individual pieces of wood, and actually he really liked the idea of seeing all the way to the back to help achieve this sense of depth. I think this is a great idea, and what I'm planning on doing is actually using the carpeting plants, obviously all around the foreground, but also all the way through to the centre, and then to plant taller plants to the left and to the right, so we have this really nice U-shape composition accentuated by this path that's going to run through the centre of the scape. I'm really excited by this. I hope you are too. Yeah, because you wanted some moss and stuff on here, didn't you? Yes. Yeah, and I've got a load of epiphyte plants, so these are plants that are attached to the wood, and then there'll be some other epiphyte plants that will kind of wedge in between the wood and the stone, and then there'll be mid-ground plants or crypts that will go here and then over this side, and then we'll put the taller kind of weedy red and green stem plants over here, and then keep this kind of all foreground carpeting plants. So this will stay really low. Yeah. And then you'll get this
tunneling effect.
Yeah.
And do you think we can then, as you said earlier, maybe some holes, natural holes in these?
Yeah, we can literally plug some plants in there. I've got loads of suitable species.
Fantastic.
So it should be really good. Okay, let's talk about plants. Huge selection here from Aquarium Gardens, mostly Tropica. We've got carpeting species, so we've got Micranthemum Monte Carlo, we've got Eleocharis mini, Starogoni repens. These are all the Tropica 1-2 grow. And we've got some Altananthera Reinekii mini. Again, that's a Tropica 1-2 grow. This is a beautiful kind of bright red plant that stays quite low. Mark was keen to have some colour in the aquascape. And then we've got some Hygrophila araguayi as well, which can be used as an epiphyte plant. So my intention is to actually attach this to some of the wood. There's actually some really nice kind of hollowed out pieces, areas in the wood where we can literally plug the plants in. I think this will look great. We've also got classics like Nubius petite, got some trident ferns, some Bucophilandras, some Ludwigia palustris, bright red stem plant, and some Hygrophila siamensis 53B, my favourite plant of all time in terms of its name. But yeah, now it's time to prepare them. Mark's clearing a space for us. We'll do a time lapse of that because it's going to take quite a long time. And I'm really excited again. Okay, so we've prepared most of the foreground plants. We've got carpeting species, Micranthemum Monte Carlo, Halanthium Telenum Green, Eleocharis Mini, and Staragoni repens. And then as a splash of red in the foreground / midground, we've got some Altananthera Reinekii Mini. All of these are Tropica 1-2 Grow. Huge fan of the 1-2 Grow range, all produced in Tropica's own laboratory, guaranteed to be free from algae, pests, snails. Great value for money because you get so many plants in that one pot. They're really small, they're young plants, but you just get more of them. So they represent really great value for money. And for this reason, they are Tropica 1-2 Grow are my go-to plants. If I can use any plant, I try to use the Tropica 1-2 Grow. So we'll get those planted. I'm going to plant into the soil dry. I used to plant into wet soil, but I find that the plants stay rooted more easily when you plant into dry soil. It creates less mess as well. So we'll plant all of these in there, and of course we'll do another time lapse of that. I'm still excited. Okay, so we're fully planted, and I think it looks really good. I always say this, don't I, when I've done some Aquascape. But I'm really happy with this one. It's a little bit different to my usual style of scaping, and I have to give some credit to Mark for having the idea of that central pathway. I've used a typical mix of plants that I would often use in an Aquascape, but it's something about the complexity of this one. It just looks a little bit, I don't know, more natural straight away. We've combined the trident ferns there, the mosses, the Hygrophila araguayi and the Bucophalandra all together in like a relatively small area. This adds a real kind of complex texture with really nice colour as well. We've got some of the Nubius petite there wedged in between the two stones. I really like this effect because it actually almost looks like one big stone covered with the Anubias rather than two separate stones with the Anubias in between. We've got a complex carpet mixture going on, the Eleocharis acicularis Mini mixed in with the Micranthemum Monte Carlo, some Staragoni repens, and there's even a little bit of Halanthium Telenum Green in there as well. They all grow at similar rates. The Halanthium Telenum Green is actually the fastest grower, but there's actually the least quantity of that in there. So my idea is that hopefully they'll all kind of grow and reach kind of peak condition in about 6 to 8 weeks or so. I'm going to give Mark a comprehensive kind of list of instructions maintenance wise, and hopefully I can follow it up with a visit and an update video for you as well. Moving towards the mid-ground, we've got some Altananthera Reinekii Mini. This adds a really nice kind of high impact pinky purple colour. And then behind that we've got the Hygrophila siamensis 53B, and to the left of that some Ludwigia palustris. So my idea is actually that Mark can trim the stem plants. So the tallest at the top right there, the Hygrophila, going down to the Ludwigia palustris, and then almost mirrored on this side. And then we get this really great kind of U-shaped composition. And it's really enhancing this kind of central pathway that we've got here. And when you look at the tank from straight on dead center, you see all the way to the back of the tank with only the carpeting plants leading you down this path, and I think this is going to create a really nice sense of depth. So really happy with it. Mark's happy with it. That's the most important thing. He's the client. But a test that I always give myself is, would I like this at home? And yes, I absolutely would. I always get a little bit jealous when I do scapes for clients, because I think, oh, why didn't I think of doing that in my own tank at home? But it's all good practice, and who knows, I might use some of these techniques on one of my own aquascapes at some point. So we'll fill up with water now. We're using this special red colander, of course. Fill up nice and slowly, so hopefully we don't get any cloudy water. There's always a little bit of a risk that some of the plants might float. We have planted into dry soil, and I have literally just wedged a lot of the epiphyte plants in, glued the moss. So I'm hopeful we don't get any floating plants. So fill up with water. Mark's got a special filter on his main water system, so the water's actually a little bit softer and it dechlorinates it and does all these fancy stuff ready for use straight away. Once we've filled up with water, we can then turn the filter on, turn the CO2 on, and then Mark can do his first water change tomorrow. So let's fill up with water. I'm excited still. Okay guys, there we go. Aquascape is complete, filled up with water, the filter's running, the CO2 is running. Just out of interest, we've set the heater to 22 degrees Celsius. I think that's 72 Fahrenheit. I like to run the temperature a little bit cooler, on the cooler side, because it basically slows everything down, less chance of algae, less waste is being produced. There's more oxygen in the water, the cooler the water is. So obviously, depending on what livestock you want to keep, but my recommendation is to go towards the cooler end of what that livestock is comfortable with. So with that livestock in mind, what fish would you like to see in here? Mark's got a few ideas, I've got a few ideas as well, but always interested to know what your thoughts are. I know we definitely want to put some cherry shrimp in there and some Amano shrimp and maybe some nearite snails for algae control. But in terms of display fish, let us know what you think. So in terms of maintenance, now Mark is going to do daily water changes, at least 50% every day for the first week. Second week, he's going to change at least half of the water every other day. Third week, change at least half of the water every third day. And after the fourth week, we can go to the weekly water changes. Now, this sounds like a lot of water changes, it is, but the reason for that is basically to limit the risk of algae. During the startup phase in an aquascape's life, algae is really risky, and what we can do to help mitigate that is the big water changes. The plants are going through a transitional period. Most of these are being grown outside in their emerged state, so they need to use a lot of energy adapting to their underwater growth. And during this process, the risk of algae is a lot higher because basically the light and the nutrients and the organics in the aquarium system aren't all being utilised by the plants because they're going through this adaptation phase. So by doing these big water changes, we can really help mitigate this algae risk. After a couple of weeks or so, I'd recommend to Mark to start adding the liquid fertiliser. We're adding TNC Complete in here. It's very similar to Tropica Specialised or the EA Aquascaper liquid fertilisers that you may have heard of. It's a complete all-in-one solution, and we'll probably start off with dosing 5 to 10 millilitres a day in a couple of weeks or so. We've got a really nutrient-rich substrate here, and we've got Tommy who wants to say hello. Here we go. What do you think of the Aquascape, Tommy? Do you like it? So, where was I? Liquid fertiliser, yeah, between 5 and 10 millilitres every day after a couple of weeks or so. And this is going to really help feed the plants, not just through the substrate with the soil, through the roots, but also through the leaves and the water column. That's why we need to add the liquid fertiliser. By adding a decent substrate and adding decent quality liquid fertilisers, we can really ensure the healthy plant growth, which is in turn going to help reduce the risk of algae. We've got good lighting here, we've got good CO2, we've got good circulation, we've got a good substrate, we've got healthy plants and lots of them, and this all adds up to a successful system. And I'm really confident Mark's going to have a great success and really enjoy his journey in the aquascaping world. I'm really excited to see it develop. Thanks so much to Mark for inviting me into his beautiful home and letting me aquascape in here today. He's been a great help and I've had great fun. So I hope you have too. Thanks so much for watching, really appreciate it. You take care, keep on scaping. Cheerio.